Okay, today we are going to learn at quadratic equations. But the first method we are going to look at solving the quadratic equation by using factorization method. Or if you don't call it like that, you call it sprinting the middle term. So now we all know that the quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where we know that a, b, and c are constants. So now we need to solve this equation using the factorization method or sprinting this middle term. Now suppose a constant a is equal to 1, then suppose a is equal to 1. Now it means the quadratic equation will be of the form maybe ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, but a is equal to 1. In fact, we can even write it in this form, that a squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So now, number one, we shall look at the examples of this kind. Number one, example 1. Solve for the values of x in x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to 0. So here you will realize that a constant a is equated to 1. But now b, our a is equal to 1, b is equal to -1, and then c is equal to -6. So now what you do, you look for the two numbers which you can multiply. You get two numbers, you can multiply, you obtain a -6, and add, you obtain a -1. So therefore those two numbers we shall call them factors of 6. -6. And those numbers will be, if we try to see, if we get a 2 and a -3, these two you can add them, you get a -1, and then you multiply them, you get a -6. So now what we are going to do for that case, we are going to get these two numbers, we substitute them in the place of a -1, because here we know here there is a -1, so we can substitute them there and see. So it will be x squared, so these two numbers will be +2, but this is x, then -3, x, then -6 is equal to 0. So now from there you factorize, you group them. I can take this and that, and then this and that. So I try to see in this bracket here, I will say that we have a common term here and there, and that is x. So here we remain with x plus 2. Then also here we have a common term, that is a -3. So here we shall remain with x, and then here a +2 will equate to 0. So also you group them, but you realize that this and this, they are similar. So you just take one. So this one, take it to 0. So you remain with x minus 3 into x plus 2 is equal to 0. So here you have factorized, but when you proceed, you can get the values of x. Therefore, we can say x minus 3 is equal to 0, or x plus 2 is equal to 0. So our x is equal to a positive 3, and then or our x is equal to a negative 2. This 2 will take it the other side, and then this one will take it the other side. So therefore, we conclude and we say the values of x are negative 2 and a negative 2 and a positive 3. But now we can as well continue. We see the same example, this very example, that x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to 0. Remember, we are in factorization. So in factorization here, we expect to be having two brackets. I will start x, then another bracket x, I close it, I equal to 0. Now the two numbers, I can multiply, I get a negative 6, and then I add, I get a negative 1. It is, we had already seen that it is a 2 and a negative 3. So from there, we press them there. So here it is a positive 2. Then here it is a negative 3. Then take, or you say x plus 2 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 is equal to 0. So your x is equal to a negative 2, and then x is equal to a 3. But now, you should remember and you should note in B that I can do this provided that a coefficient A is equal to 1. If the coefficient A is not equal to 1, then this method here is not applicable. This method is not applicable. Now, try to look the same example. Look at this very example, which is x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to 0. You realize that the coefficient A is equal to a 1. Remember, it is not a negative 1, but it is a 1. So if it is just a 1, now you get the two numbers, you can multiply, you obtain a negative 6, and you add, you get a negative 1. So that is a 2 and a negative 3. So if those are the two numbers and you have got them, and here there is only 1, then you proceed and say your x1 is equal to a negative 2, and x2 is equal to a 3, or your first x is equal to negative 2, and then your x2 is equal to a 3. So now, in other words, what I'm trying to mean, if here there is a constant 1, now it means that these two numbers, or the factors of our constant c, or of our product, is just the reverse, or you just reverse the signs, and then you obtain the answers. So now, as we have seen that, and everyone, you have noted it, if the constant is just equated to 1, then you should be able to solve the quadratic equation using the factorization method, or the splitting the middle term. Now, suppose the constant a is not equal to 1. What happens? We shall see it through solving the example, and that one we shall call it example 2. Solve 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 is equal to 0. Solve 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 is equal to 0. But now, you realize that here a constant a is not equated to 1, but a is equated to 2, and b is 4, and c is 2. So, for this case, what you do, you first get this constant, you multiply it with a constant c. You get this value here, you multiply it with the other last constant, the other side. So, and that is what we call maybe the product. We have got, it is a 2 times a 2, which is equal to a 4. Then our sum, which is in the middle here, it is what we call 4. So the product is 4, and then the sum is 4. So what you do, you get now the factors of the product of 4 here. Now for this case, we have a 4 here. It is not a 2. So the two numbers we can multiply, we obtain a 4. It is a 2 and a 2. So these two, we can multiply them, we obtain a 4, and we add it, we get a 4 at that point. So what we do, also we place them at that point. We sprint this middle term. So which is the same as 2x squared plus 2, maybe plus a 2. Do you see this x? You press them there, then plus a 2. So which is the same as 2x squared plus 2x plus 2x. Then plus a 2 equal to 0. So you group them in pairs. So from here you realize that we have a common terms, and here we shall see that we have a 2x in 2. Here we shall remain with x, then plus here we remain with 1, then plus here we factorize a 2, we remain with x plus a 1 is equal to 0. So also group them, but this one is similar to that. So this one, you make it 0. So you obtain 2x plus 2 into x plus 1, which is equal to 0. Therefore, we shall say 2x plus a 2 is equal to 0, or x plus a 1 is equal to 0. So, from that point, we shall realize that a 2x plus a 2 is equal to 0. Take this one the other side, you obtain 2x is equal to negative 2. So your x is equal to, divide by 2, you obtain a negative 1. Then also from here, we get x plus 1 is equal to 0. So you take this one the other side, you obtain x is equal to a negative 1. So both two values of x are negative 1 and negative 1. Now, this is what I was telling you. For this case, here a constant is not equated to 1. Therefore, if you get these two values here, are you seeing? If you get the two values here, let me say this is a 2x squared plus a 4x plus 2 is equal to 0. And I get these two values, I say this is my first bracket, and then this is my second bracket is equal to 0. Remember, then I press there a 2, then I press there a 2. This is x is equal to a 2, negative 2, x is equal to a negative 2. So you find that these answers are wrong. So this method here is applicable when A is not or is equal to what? 1. So my dear students, from what we have done, I can just give you an exercise or assignment. You try it also, you see how you can solve assignment. Assignment number 1, solve for the values or solve for x, solve for x in the following quadratic equations. For values of x, that. So number 1, I will give you x squared, then plus 2x, then plus 1 is equal to 0, and then 2, we shall have 4x squared minus 4x, then plus 1 is equal to 0. So you can solve them for your own practice. Thank you so much for attending this lesson. Then next time, at any time, I will be teaching about completing the squares and then using the quadratic formula. Keep on, keep tuned. Bye bye.